Boop, beep, boop, beep. You copy my channel link. Channel link pasted. So late. Well, maybe I should. Maybe I should. There. I'm to me, my children. Hi, bird. Ah. Meow, 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 meow. Me. I am gonna have to go into studio mode to fix whatever that was because it was all messed up. Oh no, it's fine now. Okay. My solar. Wonk. I'm over here. Okay. Cool. Everything's working. Everything's solid. Desktop. Okay. How are you doing? I've been busy. By which I mean mildly addicted. Oops. Oh, you can do leaderboards in the gamepad. Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Should we do a bingo? Do you want to do a bingo? We may as well do a bingo, right? Let's do it. I'm gonna do a bingo. We're gonna create the game. You know what? We're just gonna do... I'm gonna do both. Well, just do Megabonk. Let's just do Megabonk this time. Keep it quick. Here's my theory on this. Okay, if I do the events right, we go. Any given game, if someone gets a bingo, I will reset it before the next round. If they don't, we'll keep rolling. That's my idea. That does mean I need to go into general events and do some editing because right now I feel like it's kind of a shitty move to reset, say, like bits spent and shit. I just feel like that's kind of mean right now, so we'll see. We will see how that goes. But for now, here we are. How's everybody doing? Well, having a lovely day. We all hanging out. Just kind of here. Hi. Hi. I've been vibing with Tony McZoom. Yeah, mine's been bad too the last few days, actually. Oh, I could just be the bush. There's lots of things I don't have yet. For now, don't want you. I'm gonna stick with Tony, because me and Tony are homies. Okay. Just enjoy Tony. And that reminds me, I have a bunch of silver to spend. So, well, let's start here. It's, edgy Tony McZoom. Future Tony McZoom. Let's do future Tony McZoom, because I'm a sucker for blue. Okay. We're also going to hop in the shop here, because I do have enough money to start doing some things. Namely this. Apparently once. Do it once. Can buy another refresh. I do use refresh. Oh, I meant to get toggle. Well, whatever. Okay. I can even be a weirdo and get him to say that. Yeah, we're doing it. Okay. We're gonna go into the graveyard. I have not done the graveyard at all yet. This is brand new for me. I've saved it for everybody. Okay. But I quite like Tony McZoom because I like the daggers. They are my friend. Will this be his map? I kind of have doubts. Well, we don't even get a map here. Okay, I didn't read what it said. Oh, we got ramps though, so that's what really matters. Oh, we start with the ghosts. Okay, so it's not really messing around. Poison Flask could be good. Right. I don't like it as a primary. It's real rough to use it as a primary, but I'm just not quite fast enough now. Ooh, that was good. Using that momentum to get up here. Me too. We don't get a map, so I immediately hate it. We can go under. Oh, alright. What's this do? Oh my gosh. So there's a challenge to break everything in here. USP tunnel. It's a short route, but it's only tier 1. We'll see how it goes. I don't know how this works. I am trying to break everything I can. Something about pumpkins, or Spooky Steve is here. Oh my god, wait, that's it? Uh-oh. I did not realize what was happening. Okay. Okay, well that is... Huh. Well, we did this, and we did this. I still haven't updated this. I'm really gonna have to. Well, there's that. And to be quite frank with you, I think that counts. So there you go. There's a good start for everybody. Wow. Okay. I think I might... We'll try Monk, because he can climb the walls, and that saves me some dicking around, I guess. Interesting. So I only get a minute? Is that what I'm getting? A couple minutes? Smells like shit. Not the fastest. Find the exit. We have a minute and a half. No, I want down. Okay. Oh yeah, this sucks. I forgot. I hate monkey. I don't like the monkey. Homeboy is not my friend. See, I thought there was a thing for breaking everything. I was looking at chat. You know what? I don't even feel bad about that. Okay, cool. I just wanted the box. You have no sense of how big it is. It's just run. There's ramps. We should probably not focus on challenges so much as just get through it. He jumps. He exclusively jumps. That makes him harder to control. And he climbs walls, which makes him harder to control. It's just kind of hard to control. I find Monk very hard to control. More attack speed is fine. Thank you for your service. Moldy cheese, my beloved. We'll mark that in a minute. We're almost out of time. So... you really do gotta fucking haul some ass, it seems. Then Spooky Steve is here. With a frankly giant health meter and a shit ton. Wow. Alright, new priority. I don't know about getting everything in there. I don't think that's happening right now. I think right now we just need to get a sense of how big this sucker is. because, yikes. I will get the chests. Maybe. That might already be a bad move. Yes, please. Okay, so do the ladders... Okay, you can go up ladders. You can just straight up go up ladders. It's slow and awkward, but you can do it. Not getting every fucking chest, clearly. My priorities have wildly shifted from that. I don't know how long is it. Wow, okay. Sure, at this point, actually, yeah. It's usually the farthest we've been, but I already feel like I'm just making poor choices left and right. Wait. What? Oh! There's something about breaking pumpkins. Okay, so that's interesting. So you have so long in the crypt. There is a thing for doing a lot in the crypt very quickly. So that's weird. We're looking for crypt keys and we're trying to break every pumpkin in the fourth thing. Know that. Supposedly there's something we could have found in there too. Don't quote me on that. Pumpkins are pods. Pumpkins are pods, got it. Yeah. Love some movement speed. It is Tony McZoon who kind of needs it as a rule. Kind of stops. I'm just trying to figure out where that went. Ice crystal, freeze enemies upon hit. That can be good. Let's go big on the keys because we've got more than none of them. Dick. Oh shit! Those raise difficulty. Welp. We've learned something today. There's a lot of that actually. Okay, the purple on the map. So it's just different icons. But that's interesting. I actually kind of like that. Themed icons for the areas. Every pumpkin's gotta be rough. Okay, yeah, I should mark some things. Hey, that works well with the moldy cheese. See, now if we got the flask, it'd be a really good setup. And I did use a greed totem technically. I didn't realize it, but I did. And I'm pretty sure I just took fall damage too, so boom. There you go. Have fun, guys. We're in a situation. Ooh, yes. It's a long timer. Is this one we just came out of? Yeah. Let me just back where we started now. That's a normal breach thing. Okay, so the tombs do something separate? That's concerning. Movement speed. Absolutely. We're going to go fast. Be free chest bigger than that. Honestly, on this map, yes, please. I have to look at my map a lot. I'm sorry if I'm pausing left and right. There's only... Find 4 crypt keys. More damage on the base thing is a nice tool. More keys. I got 30% freedom chance. Hi, Spritzy. Just feel appropriate. Armor damage. Let's do speed damage. Your archway. Oh no! Oh, they're fast too. Attack speed, I feel like I need it for deep shit, honestly. Oh, yeah, this will help. You mean the one that instantly kills you? Yeah, I met him 2 or 3 times straight to the face. It took me a second to fully realize the situation I was in. Kind of dumped me in. I'm like, oh no. There's another freebie. The keys are working out. What? Orange crit chance, please. Hello, Ghost Ham the Dead. I have so many ghosts. And I keep getting these free. That's awesome. If there was a thing for getting a bunch free in a row, I'd be golden. More crit chance, always. Got my sweater, this house cold. Alright. Ooh, let's just be smashing pumpkins here. I don't find any crit keys, I'm not sure what trees yet. I wasn't going through that, I was kind of going to do something for some reason. I noticed there's about 2,000 of them. They're just decorative. More luck. Also free. That's going well for me. Trying to suck it used. Wow. There's a mod in at the moment. Oh, hello. Legendary and all that. Yeah. Had some sort of monster was spawned. I think it was a blue one. I'm just gonna mark it because he's about to die. Shrine of Suck is getting used. Moai has been used. Oh, we definitely have a duplicate and a triplicate item, actually. Nothing is level 5 yet. I'm counting this as epic. I'm sure we've had a... Well, no, we haven't had a rare. And we have had a rare item acquired. I actually list out all the rarities and use them right. That'll work for now. Take the staff? Why? I want the dagger for... Well, that's not a great upgrade. Oh, that's 3 project. Never mind. That one immediately. And, yeah, it's Blue Monster down, so... Just more daggers. Some lifesteal might be nice. I don't know if I want... Ooh, that's good. Boy, the staff wants me to take that, doesn't it? It keeps popping up. Axes. I specifically need to get axes to level 10 first. I know that. Dagger's level 5, so guess what? Here we go, guys. Trying to keep on top of it fairly well. I can have my slutty rocket. So, bongo. My slutty rocket. Oh shit, I have a bingo. Boom. I'm actually on the board. Ha ha ha. No legendary item yet. I don't have epic item on there, so you see the issue. Yeah, no, I got the slutty rocket. I love the slutty rocket. I feel obligated ethically to always take the slugger rocket though. I mean, I'm me, so. Electric plug. That was a little out of my grade. Oh. I see. I understand. I think I get what's going on here. Okay. I might be stupid. Don't worry about it. We're also smashing a shitload of pumpkins. Oh, yeah. I have my feeling. I just think I just killed a guy. Okay, that's interesting. That's a new one. I haven't noticed him before. Okay, well, there's the crypt. So we gotta get the keys from the, yeah. Okay, I get it. We're almost a third way through our time, but you cannot deny the word slutty in here. Jim Slaw, I mean, the cheese stack is real. If I can get the thing that builds on poison at this point, we'd be doing pretty fucking nice. Ooh. Sarah's thinking noises. Yeah. I think I'm kind of getting disoriented here with the constant bombs. I was trying to hit the pumpkins, but at this point it's like there's stuff in my face every 4 seconds and I'm a little overwhelmed. Okay, now there's no more Jeff. Jeff is dead. We killed Jeff. Jeff is so gone. Jeff is beyond dead. Jeff is a ghost thrice. Let's have that. Excuse me. Oh my god, I have not went up Bill's wall. Okay. Something here, so here. There's something up here on this? What? Oh shit. There's something over. What's the hell there? I sent Jeff to. Oh, that's good. I mean, I'm trying to get more speed. So. Oh, hello. I'm also trying to break every pumpkin like an idiot. I think that's the one I needed to mark. Let me look. Rare weapon up. Yeah, purple's rare. Blue is uncommon. I think I gotta get better at this. So, Tome's level 5, not yet. Okay. And I don't have a bird yet, which is wild. Always a bird. Oh, look at this. I may be thinking, sir, should you be blind running trying to get every single pumpkin? And I would say, shut your whore mouth. Listen, if I'm not doing it right, then why am I doing it? I will take the jumps, actually. I think that's been helpful on the sliding is when I know where I'm going. And right now I'm really just like barely navigating. I guess just straight up this way. Wait. See you. 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 I fell here. Calcium's dad's here. Sucks to be him. None of these are great. More axe great. What do you got? Yes. I think I'm doing a little bit of poison damage. I'm sorry, Dustin Birdie. Birdie Dustin. Is Dustin what you prefer to be called? Should I be doing that more? Am I a bad girl? Ooh. My crit rate is not something that upsets me. Well, yeah, I was trying to make sure I call you the thing I think call. They always just call you bird. I don't know if that's like bad because you're bird in that place. Am I being naughty? Yes, more speed. Well, I'll take a bit on her. Who knows it'll matter eventually. Only 2 to 1. There's a lot of shrines. Yeah, I'll put more evasion because I get double that. That's just head. Those men were just heads. Oh shit. Okay, I can turn it down. Alright. I didn't realize it was that bad. I am a little quiet today. Let's do... That's a little lower. Is that better at all? I actually have a huge pet peeve with things are like, oh yeah, the music, you can hear it right now. It's like, I can't hear shit. They just play it way too quiet. I want to hear the music. I'm a musical. I like music. I like music, you know? Crit chance, projectile count. I mean, you know, who doesn't want more slutty little rockets? Hey, guess what? That's what I'm making for dinner. Lifesteal, gold game. The more things I hit, the less shit's on my map, the more I can actually try to do the thing I'm trying to do. I have so many ghosts. Like, yes, I realize what map I'm fucking sure. They're not doing shit to me. Kill them. Part of me's tempted to say that if this goes well, I'm just going to start popping a bunch of curse shrines and try to get that 40% thing that I've never gotten yet. Double your luck. Have your max HP. Double gold game. Oh, I didn't have to think about. Oh wait, that's a really good option. Come on. That's 4 keys. That is almost a 50-50 chance. Fuck it. I doubt we'll get this to level 10 in this one. It's only one tier, as we call it. It's a long tier. Shield might be good. I don't think I'm going to survive more than a hit or 2 anyway. Sorry, Mike and Mike. I could probably go ahead and get another boss then. Oh, can't afford. Can't afford. I did it. Oh, and I cursed the boss. Still no Tome level 5. Still no legendary items. More axes. Time is running lower than I'd like for my dumb little progress, but we're doing alright. The extra time to power up is very nice. Oh guys, imagine if I actually came and fought you. How fucked you'd be. Poison. Well, I think I'm misunderstanding what poison actually does. I feel like that. we now have officially a 50-50 chance of any given chest being absolutely fucking free. The problem I'm facing now is purely time-based. I'm trying to be quickish. Oh wow, I have a lot of money. There's a second burger, and that was free. Yes, please. I don't even want to freeze everything. What am I, a coward? No. Yeah, sure, more bosses. At this point, who gives a fuck? I try not to fight the boss to the final swarm, but I also don't know how strong the boss will actually be yet, because I've never done this run before, so... At this point, what happens. I'm also being a dumbass in the first try attempting to get all the pumpkins, because I know that's a thing. I think more base damage would be good, especially when we're shooting this many rockets. There's also the thing I could do with the microwave to try and get infinite cheese, but I would like to actually try to clear this. Sorry, bird. You'll get there. In theory. Ooh, silver coin. Give me that. Give me that shit. I missed one way over there. Oh no. Alright, well, we'll do what we can. This might be a fool's errand. Yeah, I got more ghosts. Are we sick of me getting ghosts yet? If I had more move speed, I'd be happier. I'm a little upset with how low it is, honestly. Actually, I gotta go back that way anyway. I super messed up. Okay. Well, Sarah's sense of direction isn't on this game. I should just make that in every game. That should just be a general one. I am so much slower than I'd like to be. Oh my god. Yes, please. It says there's something right... What? Oh my god, it's just odd. Hey, blue guy. Add that to the list. Oh, no, never mind. I do slide. I slide when I know where I'm headed. You notice that when I knew which way to go, I did a slide. I'm also doing a huge-ass scavenger hunt. Because I'm a dumbass. There's a tome level 5. I'm not guaranteeing we beat this because I am absolutely greedy right now about, you know what? We need the movement speed, yes. Absolutely. Make me fast. So much money. Since there's 3 over here I missed. Like, what the fuck? Where? Oh my god. I'm still missing stuff, too. I'm freaking out. I really wanted to do this. I thought, hey, I'm good at moving. But no, we're having issues. 3 minutes left, and I still haven't even got the keys. But, got that, and that, and that, and that. Chill out, Calcium's dad. There, we have a few bosses in now. I'm just trapped until they all die, huh? No, that's cool. I love that for me. That's so fun. That's awesome. That's great. That's such a cool setup that happened. Thank you. I love learning like that. That feels so fun. God damn it. It wasn't the laser. It was the fact that he was outside the wall and I couldn't do anything about it. I killed the 3 guys and the wall stayed because there were still bosses. I didn't know there even was a wall. I thought it was a knockback thing. When you summon them, so they don't kill you as they rise from the ground. So I learned a lot very quickly and I'm very mad about it. Alright. Dude, that sucks. I got nothing for that. Fuck off. I got toggle. I'm mad. I'm actually mad. Get ice crystal. Kill Spooky Steve. Really? Yikes. Kill 75. That's going so slow. At the precision tome, level 10. 5% chance to find upon breaking. I didn't get that. I think I gotta get there with. Yeah, you got it. I think I gotta get there with a weapon slot open. Got left home with 12. Kill 1,000 wisps as fox on desert. Get a knockback tome. Get bloody tome. This one's pissing me off. Oh, spritz. I mean, I didn't even see that. Oh, so you can get a fifth one. I just had bad luck. All right. Like this one, I'd start one in the sandstorm and it wouldn't count. I'd end one in the sandstorm, it wouldn't count. It has to be like the whole thing. They're so short half the time. All right, tomes. Find on graveyard. Just find it. Gotta find it. As Roberto break every... I wasn't even the right guy. I have to be a specific fucking guy. Alright. I don't know what a lamp is. Alright. 3 leeching crystal. I don't have leeching crystal. Need regen tome to 8 for leeching crystal. Max HP to 500. Defeated final boss twice. This one's awesome. I love the sucky magnet. Find in the graveyard crypt. Okay. Open every chest and pot in the first crypt. So there's my issue. There's my issue right there. That thing, you do not get much time. The minute and a half, that's what I was trying to do early on. Alright, well that's, I think everyone that was going to get a bingo got a bingo out of that. For the sake of argument. Maybe, but it says in the first crypt, so I don't know. I'm gonna start another bingo. Do we all like bingo? Yeah, Spooky Steve is a problem. You need speed, you need... I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna try it again. I don't think I even have... Yeah, I don't have Roberto. I have to kill Spooky Steve to get Roberto, so... Yeah. I'm gonna stick with my boy for now, because I like my boy. Sorry. Alright. New priority. Let's beat this bitch. Yeah, let's just... Fuck that. Somewhere between the camera and everything else, I just kind of got sent out. I can't see, it's this stupid hat. I'm sorry, did you just give me the same thing but flipped horizontally? Sure. Who cares? Take Keezy. He's good. Oh no, don't do that to me though. We're on a timer here. What a weird fucking hole, man. Free. I mean, it's kind of free anyway, isn't it? Where's this stupid snake at? Where's the snake at? I want the snake. I'm trying to unlock a snake. No, it's just it's find him in the crypt. It specifically said in the crypt, I thought. It's been fast. Oh ass. Did most of it. I'm getting better. I get extra time for taking too long? That's interesting. Alright, I don't have my extra jump anymore, guys. We are not getting a lot of damage output early on here, so I'm not really ready to summon a boss. Please. We need something. There's a golden guy. Maybe. Undeka, maybe? It's a lot. It's a shit ton. How's that? There's a golden guy down. I'll mark it in a second. I'm sure everyone's getting a bingo after the literal first thing that happens. Okay. I have my second and third weapon. These ones might just kind of not be worth having anymore, but I don't know. Change it for fourth. No duplicates yet. That was a gold guy, right? Down. Okay. I think the crit damage will help us out long term, because that tends to be something the dagger specs out for really well. It's a lot. I don't know. I don't know how you get there. I was already intimidated by the final bosses having millions, but maybe I'm missing something. Certainly does feel like I'm getting, on average, better. Then you start getting toggle and stuff, and I don't know. Ooh, silver. I'll go down the hole for silver. I'm a whore for silver. Silver. I'm getting a lot of freebies for only having 2 of those. Alright. No freebies, hello. I'm not complaining. A lot of those. Trying to balance is interesting, but doesn't seem that useful. Or that. Ooh, I haven't had Space Noodle yet. That's a really good upgrade. That's a rare weapon upgrade, and that's really hard to say no to. So we're gonna do it. More damage, and damage is why I haven't gone for the key yet. Again free? Wow. Alright. Let's see if we can do this now, because if we can't, we're already in trouble. Oh yeah, that was fine. Not great. Not as good as last time. We have to take the key. Shit. That's what I did. Without the key, it stays. I guess means it's really hard to accidentally leave. I don't want to do that until I do the boss curves, because I really would like the extra chests. I mean, lots of time to kill anyway, as per Spritz's mandate. Dude, hit him! Space Noodle. Band-Aid I kind of wish I had left unmarked so I could refund it at this rate. Because, we ain't doing a burger. What's this border? Oh, yeah, do live steal. I might need that at this point. This run is not going as well. I'm not even seeing chests. I have the money. We're just straight up roaming for shrines at this point. I need more stuff to happen before I go key hunting. Oops, I didn't even look. And I got the one I don't like, so... There are misinputs. Hits the button early. That should be on the list. I do that a lot, it turns out. Like, a fucking lot. Something will pop up when I'm not ready for it, and I'll just get screwed. Oh, so this does no actual damage unless... Oh, that sucks. Space Noodle sucks. I mean, it doesn't... It doesn't do damage until it... What? Dudes, this is miserable. This is not a good run so far. Okay, I didn't want that anyway. There's full damage. Oh, never mind, I bounced off a guy. Sure. Sure. Can't afford. Can't afford. Oh, I think I've seen them all this time. I've seen the... No. Sure. We need something. We're doing so bad. This sucks. Yep, start over. Just fucking start over. Just start over. What an ass run. Last one went so well. I'm sorry, is that timer shorter than usual? Absolutely give me quantity out the gate. I hate the glasses. I bought Toggle. We're turning off glasses. I tell you what. They suck. They do nothing for me. What? Really? It's an interesting one. I can't get up there. That's probably where the fucking snake is, honestly. Because it's something that feels like only Monk can do or something. I don't know how... I mean, I could ladder it. I could ladder and go up. It's not a great way. I don't have a lot of time. I don't know when the dude's gonna show here. Or where, rather. I still don't know where the fucking snake is. Early run goal. You know, it doesn't matter. We're probably about to die. Probably just about to die. That's what my attitude is. How are we all doing? Alright, that was not where the snake was. I did my best. Fuck off. Oh, fucking corner. Suck my dick. Jeez, we're not doing well. Why isn't there a retry when it's not a challenge? Oh, I didn't get to keep any of the silver from the run I bailed on. Okay. Sure, man. Sure. Sure. Just wanted to beat this. Just did a stupid turn in. I already cashed it. I shouldn't have cashed it. I never got to the final boss. I've been robbed. What the fucking... What? What? In the fucking wall? What? You tell I'm getting tilted? I've not been doing well lately, like just as a person. Something's off. Yeah, burn me. I don't give a fuck. Can you go up, please, asshole? Oh, good. Another one that's completely dog shit. How was it designed to be just kind of aggravating with your jump height? You're just barely not good enough at all times. Really fun. Open. Mid-jump? I don't like the ladders, guys. Oh, fuck off. Really? Again? In the wall. In the wall, it said. I think that's a duplicate item. Yeah, already. Oh, I'm sorry, you just go down the ladder. You just go straight down the ladder. If you walked... Okay. Sure, man. A lot of this area feels kind of illegal, honestly. We don't have time to go up there. I really want to. I was doing pretty good, but he shows. We're dead. We're not there. Get the bow. No, 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 no! Fucking... I don't think I like the graveyard. Shouldn't have confirmed Spritz's thing. I should have just refunded it. Because I never got there, and now I feel obligated to get there, and I'm not getting there. I'm doing worse every time. I had one good run and I fucked it. With some bullshit. Now I just keep dying in increasingly creative and shitty ways. I never marked duplicate, did I? There you go. May as well join. I don't mean to have my disposition go absolutely shit, but I'm feeling pretty bad right now. That's not helping. I'll be like, Sarah, you don't have to get everything. Yeah, but there's a snake somewhere, it said. I don't know where. Now I want the snake, you see. Because Sarah's a dumbass, and Sarah likes getting things. The game says there's things to get, and Sarah has to get them because Sarah is Sarah. Sarah is a getting of things person. It's what Sarah does. Sarah loves to get things, you see. And it keeps dropping this chest behind me, taking even more of my fucking time. It's never worth it. It's like Cursed Doll, an item I'm not sure actually works, frankly. I'm not sure what it does. It doesn't seem to help the bosses, the one place where I'd actually see what it does. Just do this. I don't know where the stupid snake is, but I'm running out of patience for any of this. He's about to show up, and he gets faster with time, and then he can kill me. That won't matter, because I'll get caught in the wall. I'll just Get caught in a wall and die. Oh good, the ending isn't even close. Goodbye again. I am going to Alt F4 my life. I hate this. I fucking hate this. This is so not for me. This pisses me off. It's a cool, interesting, unique challenge. Sure, it's killing me more than the graveyard is. This sucks. I just want the fucking shit. Just let me have the shit. I know it's a risk-reward thing. Give me the shit. Give me the fucking shit. You put shit everywhere. I want the shit. Missing chests? You just screwed yourself. You gotta get the chests. It's so annoying. The part of my brain that wants the things is so annoyed. It's like, it's a heart. Like, fuck off. I don't want a heart. Give me money. And then I overshoot, and the air control sucks, and then they bounce me around, and I'm already having a hard fucking time, and I'm already out of fucking patience. I'm waking my wife up, because I'm pissed off. I feel like I go play the forest just so Spritz didn't waste his fucking points. Not like he's even listening anymore. He dicked off. Get off me, Satan. You know, that pot's where the stupid snake... I give up. I give up. I give up. I don't know where the snake is. I don't even know if the snake's real. The snake is a fucking lie. Fuck the snake. Who needs new items? Who needs making progress in the game where unlocking shit is half the game? Who needs it? Right? I'm a man on a board who is slow as shit, despite being on a board. You'd think he'd be faster, but he's slow as shit. I swear he gets slower every time I play, and I don't know why. That's just how it feels. He feels slower. Stop giving me help. I hate you. I hate your family. Your family of spooky ghosts. Last pot. Money. Money's good. Get me the fuck out of here. Okay, and we wait just a second. We wait just a second. We buy as much time as we can before Steve gets here. We don't get the chest because we suck at life and everyone laughs at us. Yay. Cool. I love not getting the chest. I love not getting the free things because they spawn in the middle of fuck you. It's awesome. Sure, man. Whatever. It's all crap. Oh, Jesus, shitting in my eye. Useless, but okay. On this one. Blue skeleton. Am I crazy? I thought I saw blue skeleton. Oh. God, I need that. I need anything. Please. Sure, man. Trying to suck. Pretty sure everyone has bailed on me at this point because I'm so cheery. More projectiles and speed. Yes. Or a gun. Just a straight up gun. Give me the straight up gun. Bang, bang, bang. I use one now. I just have one. Jeez. Don't lick me. Please. I don't think this gets any better. We're not having enough trouble today. Let's curse the bosses so I have more bosses because I need the bosses. Movement speed. For the love of God. It was so slow. This map is so big. Sure. Is that a Moai? No, it's a Shrine of Balance. Sick impersonation of a Moai that makes us sad inside. That's a Moai. Fucking concept. I actually get to play the game. Oh. It just feels like I am trapped out of actually doing the thing I'm here to do by that crap. I like the idea. I don't like that there's the whole stage behind it. Personally. The early game risk reward, you can, I mean, you can get stuff out of it. I can see what they're going for. Just, ugh, I'm pissy. Get me on a better day and we'll talk. But right now, I'm like, nah, I don't know, dude. That's really frustrating. Double duration doesn't help me. Double projectile, no, those are ass. Fuck you. The projectiles go faster, but there's half as many of them. No. They're already blitzing across the screen. Why would I want that? What a stupid stab. These are fucking cold, so there's that. Do the axe. My continued efforts to level up the stupid axe. Let's go. Fuck it. I gain more XP that way. So grade gives XP gain, but it raises difficulty. The shrine thing seems to only raise difficulty, so I don't know what the point of that is. I presume it spawns more guys, and spawning guys gives you a benefit of some kind, but I don't know. I'll take more shield now. I'm built on for this dude. Double calcium stat this time. This is not a great spot for this. I swear I hit the challenge, but it did pop. Okay. Everything, please. My output's not good. Like, this is not encouraging right now. We're getting money, that'll help. But first run was like golden, except for I didn't know how a certain thing worked and we got fucked out of it. About to take a big fucking hit. I'm going to the forest now so Spritz can get his stupid thing he paid for. I would not be so mad if I hadn't have accepted that, thinking it was an easy, like, yeah, sure, and it's like, no, I can't fight. He bought a thing. I'm not allowed to fight the final boss until I hit Final Swarm on that run that I got screwed. And I accepted it, thinking, all right, sure, and then we got screwed, and I haven't been able to get to the fucking final boss. So we're going into the forest. We're going to be on tier stinking 1. Fuck you, I'll play on Oh No. Alright? Fine. Let's see if anything happens for this. If this goes wrong, I'm playing fucking vanilla. My gamepad has stopped responding because the cord had a fit. Okay. The pressure to get there is really, really, really getting to me. And as usual, I think we misunderstood the exact instructions, but hey. Sure. It's supposed to be I can't do a certain thing for 5 minutes or the rules have to change somehow. I don't know. I like it in theory, I don't like how it's played out today. It was half an hour ago. Where's your slurp gloves? It's half an hour and I don't think anyone's even gotten bingo. Oh, I got bingo apparently. So there you go. I used the greed totem. I did. There's slurp gloves. I'm going to say dying of hubris is about what happened about 67 times there. Yeah, I don't have epic item. I just have legendary. They're different things. I should really mix it up. Echo Shard's good to get early on. Bush isn't. Fuck that guy. He's light up here. It's a good spot for a sniper. XP Tome also good to get this early on. We're gonna need it. Sure. That was an epic weapon upgrade, so bam. I will take the aura, actually. I have issues with the fox, and I have the axe, so I kind of need to think about... I think Walker would pair well with it, too. That really requires me to play risky with character. It's not really meant to. Anvil has proven to be my favorite fucking thing, but good luck getting it. I've gotten it once, but it makes it so you can get a second, or you get extra, what you call them? You get extra things on your level ups, so sometimes you get like a second or third one even, or you weren't meant to originally. Hey, did you know you can negate fall damage by hugging a wall? Now you do. More money? You know what? Sure. And we're early in the run. That actually really worked out. There's a boy one for fucking sure. Escape me this time, asshole. Blue monster down. God. Funny because Spritz was like, yeah, that happens every game. That's kind of a dumb one. I'm like, no, it's not. I miss them a lot. You buy another Echo Shard. Sure. Respect in levels. Let's go. Fuck the Space Needle. I do not like the Space Needle. I would scream at the Space Needle. I'm not a fan. Now that I got it, I'm like, oh my god, no, that thing sucks ass. Can't afford. We done that yet? We have. Oh, this game's been going way longer than it's supposed to. Yeah, I don't know if we've done anyone. Fire. How much the fire shot and spread like the dawn arrow? I'm going to shoot out fast. Max HP will really help us out, but we still have no red restoration recovery, so that might be the problem. No, we got slurp gloves. And we got moldy cheese. Is moldy cheese on here yet? No, here you go. Moldy cheese, my beloved. Bone, katana works. I like katana. But katana with this setup seems alright. I think I can work with that. Because that means for a katana axe, it's like a nice mid-range combo. The closer you get, the more damage you're getting. I'm not completely bound on melee. More attack speed. Yeah, sure. HP would be smart considering we're on a challenge run or something. Extra money and everything, huh? Katana also gets bigger, I always forget that. Alright, let's see how this goes. He's slightly buffed. Not a bad spot. I really wanted that nuke. There we go. This is kind of a frustrating little map layout, isn't it? Oh, shit. You motherfucker. lot of XP. I don't know when that stops being worth doing. I'm eating on it right now for some reason. You may call me a fool. So far we're doing okay. Not like walloping everything that moves, but we're doing okay. Swarm is our first real test. Swarms are always... yeah. Chance is nice, but I'm not going to get far enough input to be worth it. But I'm getting so many rare upgrades to the XPs now. I'm like, okay. Yes. How come I'm supposed to... Ooh. Legendary. It worked out okay. I'm not mad at that. Get just keep getting XP. The only good drops it's giving me is more XP, which I use to unlock more XP. Alright, more XP, I guess. At some point, the XP's gotta actually do something besides give me more of it. Don't like that one. Love this one. One of my favorite items. So... yes, please. Yes, please. I'm starting to get some. That's where the XP pays off. When you roll such, you're going to get a blue guy or something. That's not a very good one. I guess I'll focus on the axe, because that gives me a chance of getting that unlocked. Nothing. Well, since I've unlocked something. I've unlocked something all day, actually. Duration for my axes doesn't hurt. At some point, you can't hit overlap and you just spawn groups of them. Now, fat cheeks. You know how fat cheeks go. Also, aura hits things just based on. Really? I can't hear what the song is. It's getting funny now. What's your build? Eternal, but not good enough. I still haven't even found the damn gate. Damn. Shield, any amount of shield is good. I don't really care about power up genes that much. Cooldown, yes. Cooldown and duration's a good combo with weapons. No, the desert has a fucking floor is lava challenge. Okay, we got the boss cruise. We always want the boss cruise because that means more chests, you see. Crit chance, gold gain, 2 XP. It's getting stupid, I'm sure. More fire stats, just lean in. It's my main damage anymore. Sure. Sure. Okay, we're not doing too bad. I think if I get the axe level 10, I unlock the duration. Alright, the duration tone, which did make a real difference. Oh, it's been all blue guys this time. Alright. Does more gold actually help me that much? Yes. More damage on war is good. More damage on enemy is good. Oh, let me look at my shit. We do have a weapon at level 5. We do have a tome at level 5. No legendary items. Have any triplicates? Not this run? Okay. And we haven't unlocked anything new because life is cruel. There's a lot of shit in there to get there. Oh, was there? Hold on. Ow. Ow. Yes. We got range. Which is good. We like range. Range is especially helpful for the pylons at the end, but we're not doing that, so. More gold. More katana. Do more katana. Swarm, right? Oh, there. Fucking shit. Sure. Oh, no. Excuse me. Here is not the end of the world, but it does sort of cause issues for me sometimes. More base damage. Open the freebie. Okay, well, there's your legendary item quote. I don't know what that does. Plus one chance to proc on hit effects. What are we talking? Like ice, poison, stuff like that? Is that what that is? Okay. But it does go new places. There's the axe, we did that. Alright. Clear out this ball real quick. Start to get worried. I think you just rub it in your wife's face now. Nice, you need a ball. No! Holy shit. Then where are they? And then they gave me a little kiss. Borger. We already have Borger. Okay. Friendly spousal competition happening here, guys. More axes, more damage, faster spat up more of them. Not more of them. Another extra dump. More elites. Really need it. We found the damn gate. Okay. More speed, more damage. Always need more damage. Damage is very important. 20 spirits are game that, so he does not know how I've been playing lately, which is kind of I always wait for last second to do that. To start the boss fight usually. It's like the last 20 or so. Because if you kill it early, it automatically jumps the timer down to 10 seconds. So you lose capability if you do it too early. Really, 2 shrines of suck right by the gate. And that's right, and you get it when you kill them usually, so fascinating. To focus on output at this point and getting more experience, because honestly, if it's tier 1, we're not going to get much more. We're already getting. Boss first, just to really go for it. He's getting this thing no matter what. We're gonna spawn 3 trees after the click over. So there's your hubris, guys. Ready? Final swarm. Boss spawn. Yeah. And we've cleared. Oh no. What? What do you need help with? You just need hands? Okay. Alright. We've cleared Oh No. That's 2 quests. We got the other tome for the axe. Cleared Oh No. I'll take more damage. We're gonna need anything of that sort at this point. We're in the home stretch. Feathers, that's not all bad. There's a chance we can get another one. Yeah. Nice. Got a lot of legendaries this run. Well, bonk. And first area cleared. Have a nice day. I think if you didn't get a bingo out of that one, you're not gonna, because there's 3, 4, 5 on mine. Oh, there's a thing over here. This might be suicidal. We'll see. There's a couple of them. I was gonna go use the suck shrine at some point. See if I can get back to it. Sure, that's fine. These guys are gonna start getting real fucking fast. If I can get back, I'm gonna laugh. I'm really not expecting it. I was really ballsy I'd save up on his chest, but we'll see. I've lost it. Oh, it's over here. Well, honey, I promised nothing. There we go. Well, it's right there. Yeah, more axes. I got it. I actually got it. We're about to die, but I got it. A little extra damage last second. A little extra push just to see how we do. Yeah. You did. Maybe him skill issue. Tier 1 complete, and we beat the thing. And we actually got some silver, and I feel less like jumping off a bridge. So that's good. That's good. I could get 2 more if I cleared a 3rd area. I could also get 2 more if I unlocked a new weapon. But I'm not going to do that. I am going to unlock a new tome, though. Probably. Which isn't on the list, so... I'm going to trade the unlocks for something else, though, because I'm running out of them. They aren't becoming a reasonable thing, and they're not something I can do mid-run. And I think mid-run is what's more interesting. Personally. But boom, we've unlocked the duration tome. Now this is increased duration of your attacks and projectiles. Okay, so that is good for the bow, because the bow has a limited... Okay, so... Build situational. I don't dislike any of the tomes. I like the tomes. Weapon, I'm really inclined to just turn off Space Noodle unless something says I need to use it. I don't even see a character that uses it. Yeah, it just sucks. I don't like it. There are situations where I think I like it. As a whole, I think it's the first weapon I straight up am just not a fan of. Oh, thank you, Bird. Birdston. There. I'll always be right if I just don't settle for one thing. I'm normal. Okay, so items. I'm gonna come here and kind of do the same thinking, right? Like, let's be real. Let's be real. There's a couple of these I think suck. I don't like the green. Okay, so I get there are entire builds around this card apparently, and the added chest price was a thing he did to try and rip it out of the meta because it was too dominant. And honestly, increasing chest price is such a shit thing to get randomly from a drop. I'm just going to remove it. I can't remove it. No! Oh, it's permanent, guys. There's no removing it. Oh, I really wanted to do that. Okay. Okay. Ouch, my soul. I will remove idle juice, though, because you don't stand still in this game. I'm sure someone does. It's not me. Alright. Those are the ones I don't like. I want to get rid of these two. They're fine, but I'd rather just have any of the other ones. This one, I'll leave for now. I feel like it just doesn't work right. Are there hats to unlock that I don't know yet? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna go in the graveyard one more time. Here's what's gonna happen. We're going to end the game. Okay. I'm gonna start another one. This will be it, because after this is gonna be 9 o'clock. I really gotta make dinner. So we're going to go. My gamepad is having a bad day. We're gonna go. Now Sir Oofy is someone I have to work on, but he's so slow, and in that first area I am worried about that. I'm gonna stick to Tony for now, because he's my boy. Okay. We're going to attempt the graveyard again. There is a new game. I will try to call things when I can. I hope the loving couple doesn't fight to the death over it. But if you do, record it for the rest of us, because it sounds like it'd be kind of funny. I'm gonna focus on the chests, because I don't know where the snake is. I don't. I can open I think the snake's just gonna be straight up love at some point when I find the snake. I'll take quantity right out the gate. Just jump, yeah, works for me. We are focusing on the things that matter, and the things that matter are the big juicy upgrades. They may be questioning our ability to improve the trail. Honestly, I thought it was going to be anywhere be that one. No damage. Can I make this? Almost. Get out of there, Tony. Good boy. Sometimes this camera, man, it's just not made for a space like this at all. See, I don't think I'm being particularly hubrisy this time, and we're still already really low on time. Then, if I kind of scooch over slowly, let him kind of come to me. Boom. We get a few extra seconds. Not a lot, but a few extra seconds, which is interesting. You get extra time out here based on how long you're in there, which is an interesting gamble. I do like that aspect. There are things about it that make me want to punch a man, but that aspect is cool. Look, the chest spawned out here this time. Okay. Okay. Boy, I don't know. Just more is probably the best way to start. Oh. Don't have to open all the pumpkins. We are just trying to... Well, they're all right here, which is interesting. We want at least a boss curse before we do that, though, because that gives us more chests, and more chests will help us in the end. Right? Wow, it's just getting funny. Okay, so more XP gain. That's good. There's our curse. Okay, we're off to a good start. I'd like more than one weapon. That is also tempting. So now we're going to run around a little bit, see what we can do. Crit chance? Shit, I should have stuck with crit chance. Bone works well with us, and it's thematically appropriate, so we'll do that. Wrench is fine. Wrench will make this better, so, and I'm a big shrine hole, so. Hi. More HP, please. More speed? We're getting a bunch of stuff that's about bouncing, so speed might actually be really good. More movement speed. That's fucking please. I don't say you don't want to bust pumpkins, because pumpkins are basically jars, so you do want it. It's just, I don't need to get all of it this time. Oh, and we have a duplicate item. And if I missed something, do call me out. I did boss curse. I did agree to them because I did the thing. I'm going to say unlocking the tome counts as new item unlocked. We're just going to say that's fine for now. Don't have those yet. We have duplicate. Nothing is level 5. I don't know what I've done for upgrades, so alright. Gotta watch that. That's the one I'm most likely to miss, I think. Another reason you want to do this is because these give you a fair bit of XP, like right out the gate. I think I will take some shields. I think that's gonna matter. Fuck it. There's your hubris death if it happens. But we're trying to prep for it accordingly. If I were smart, I'd wait until after Calcium's dad to do that, but, hi, have we met? Ooh, yeah, I'll take the banana ring. Let's just go stupid amount of projectiles. Okay, and I got... What did I just get? Something happened. What did I just do? Oh, no. Oh, second and third weapon are required. You can do that. Now I'm gonna join the game. Oh wow, I got shit. I thought I pulled some sort of rarity or something. I don't know. Okay, open. Oh, there's an uncommon. That's rare. Rare counts. Boom. Switch that over. Microwave. Difficulty 40 is another thing I need to work on, so I'm kind of wondering if I want to think about that going forward on this one. I get so much time to prepare compared to other maps that it might actually be viable. I'm going to do one of these and try to clear it out before fucking Calcium's dad shows. That's not looking good. Don't have the DPS I thought I did, apparently. We can work on that, though. I don't have poison. I have no cheese. I'm cheeseless. No. Donkey Kong. This is about to get real spicy if I'm not careful. And I can't grab the key before they're down. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, no. Okay. This just got real bad. Lightning. Grab the key. My DPS was not as good as I hoped it was. It was, in fact, a bit shit. But that's okay. We're working. We're working. We're working. What? Up with the grass. Whee! Back in packet. Oh yeah, that's survivable. I'm a survival being. I did it. I just didn't have the damage up that I thought I did. Blood mark will help. Gym sauce will help. Well, 6 chests for the victory, technically. That's why I do the boss curse, is to get this stuff. And now I shit toxic waste. More lightning. Oh, those are all bad. Alright. Well, lightning's the best one of the bunch, so we're doing it. Damage, please. My damage is not where I would like it at this stage of the game. More speed. Alright, sure. I mean, there's a couple things that helps. You got delicious pumpkin XP. Alright, we'll look at you, balance bitch. Double armor, have knockback. I don't have shit for knockback. I have no armor, though. I think that amounts to nothing. Double luck, half jump. I'd rather die. Don't take my jump height from me. Bitch. Ooh, that during a swarm. Now you're talking. More projectile, more size, more projectile for everything. Projectile for everything is going to be more projectile for one thing. It's just how that is. Bounces. Nah, that's good. We want bounces. Bounces wins. Just a little bit. Oh, okay. That on the list? That's a legendary. No, well, it is a good enough weapon upgrade that I'm going to take it. I'm pretty sure we've had a rare one by now, so we're just going to call both. And no weapon is level 5, no tome is level 5. Alright. I will upgrade my dagger. Yeah, I'll update the list later. What's my challenge at? Have I done 2 of those or just 1? I don't know where to find. Difficulty 5. We're going to start looking around the map a little more. I know there's a bunch of those over there, but we need to start mapping some shit. Still only have 1 jump. Alright, we've been here, but we have not been all the way down in the corner, so that's where we're headed. We're going to get these outskirts done. I know where 2 more are, but there are 5 total, so I'm missing 1. Just going to eat shit real quick. Yeah, okay. I love having the zoomies. It makes me happy. It's what keeps me alive. I'll take the key too. Oh, we do have a triple clear item. Is that on the list yet? Boom. No bingo for me yet. Oh, yes please. I'm gonna add those to the list. I have none of the what you call them's there on the bingo board at all, and I really should. I'm amazed I didn't take fall damage. I was like, oh, freebie for you guys. Just kind of yeeted without concern. Gas mask. Do I do poison right now? I kind of? That's a free epic. And we could always end up getting cheese, and it could end up helping. So maybe? Or lifestyle. I do need to get Bloody Tome leveled up. I know that, but I also need to kill. Neither of these really impresses me, though, so we're going to do Bloody Tongue. I don't think it's going to happen on this run, the thing I need. I'll get luck. Could have gotten jumps, but I'll get luck. There's another balance guy we try. There's another fucking difficulty shrine because I really want to just torment myself. Yeah, that is Mo I used, actually. Have we not marked that yet? I thought we had one. Mo I used, you're right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Extra jumps. Did I get an extra jump? Oh my god, where is it? Extra jumps here. I'm gonna take the jump. Give me mad uppies. I get so used to having it that it throws me off when I don't. Now there's well what I just did. That's a legendary microwave. I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I thought I turned you off. Banish. Fuck you forever? You suck? Am I bad that you even still exist, frankly? Crit chance. Now that is a very overdue shrine of suck. Come here. Go. Bring me 5 minutes of XP, and I'll mark that off real quick. Boom. Now, does any of our have... Oh, we do have a weapon at level 5. Don't have a tome at level 5. More bone damage. Oh, I'm getting... Ow, my suck. It sucked. Oh, ooh. Ooh. There's your level 5 right there, babies. Boom. Oh. Wow. Alright, I'm doing good this time. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm getting up on that list. I don't even try. I know, right? That's how I'm worried it's gonna feel like if I keep getting those. Like, my banana rank's still level 1. It just sucks. Oh, damn it. Oh, now we're talking. Bounces are great. I want damage. I think we'll extra. Ooh, there we go. Alright, science that took a second. All in the name of RNG. Oh, hey, the bits thing reset for the month. This is gonna be sad. She's usually the queen of that. Alright, I think it's about time we actually start going for these again. So there's one right over here. We're gonna do it. Oh, well, we'll wait a sec. This is a good marker for how we're doing. Hello. Is that our first blue one? It is. Wow. I haven't seen a gold one this run either. It doesn't mean I haven't killed one, it just means I didn't see his ass. More of everything or more damage for everything, students. If nothing else is funny, so. Boom. There's our moldy cheese. I love it, cheese. Yeah, alright. Oh, it makes a floor. Sucks to be you, Mike. I'll take some evasion. Alright, so the nearest one is back over there. hole. And we're doing alright. Am I feeling ballsy enough to take another boss curse? I don't know, but I will be doing this. Yeah, that didn't actually give me any more XP. That just did. Well, you know what? If it's right here. If we're dying again, we are dying of hubris. I'm not dying of some bullshit. I'm dying of hubris. I want to be my own damn fault when I eat shit. Thank you very much. That's right, we're summoning 4 bosses in the middle of a swarm. You go out on my terms. Ooh, things are spicy. We're alright. These guys are a bit harder. Yo, hi. What do you? Yes, please. More bounce, more damage, man. I'm spawning bananas like crazy. Now, making a bunch of ice crystals in a microwave is another one. I don't know if I'm all that interested in that. I kind of like my build, but we'll see. These are underwhelming. Ooh, that was silver. We want that. I missed the box. Yeah, alright. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add level 10 to things. I think I'm gonna... There's a few things I want to do. There's a few things I want to do to the bingo. Just as I'm getting further into this. More pure damage is kind of hard to argue with. Oh, we're here for feeling ballsy. Oh yeah. I say if I'm feeling ballsy. I keep getting huge upgrades, so. And there's a thing that, alright. Well, you know what? We may as well clean up around this guy and then go. We have the time. Gain evasion, gain jump height, gain... Let's do pickup range, actually. You'd be amazed how much that adds up over the course of it. I also love just general move speed. I feel so slow. I got so used to him just being fast as hell until I started building up. That is a lot of these balance shrines. Holy shit. More elites means more bonuses. Okay, double shield, half knockback. That's a no-brainer. That's pretty good. I have shield. I'll do that. That's actually like that one. Double size, half movement speed. Not on your wife. I don't want either of those. Those are interesting. I don't know why those aren't on any other maps, but they are very interesting. Ew, no. Ooh. Ooh. This early on? Yeah. If that's like a one-time especially, and it just builds back up over time, that'd be potentially extremely helpful. Double damage. My crit chance was ass. Oh my god. This is where I wish I had a proper V2. You would see the smile. You would see the grin of destruction. The knowledge of what I had just unleashed. Just an unholy murder. Yeah, I'll take a beefy ring while I'm at it, sure. Holy shit. The pigs died, man. Alright, we're doing pretty good, I think. Lots of ice crystals, lots of free chests. We love that. I don't know if there's any blue things I really want. I'll look. I get more. Well, I could get more blood mark or more of these, but it's at the risk of things I do like. So I don't want to do that right now. 6.5 thorns. I can just raise the difficulty for no reason. Mind you, again, hitting 40% is a thing. Gain 13% knockback. Gain. Alright. That's it. I'm doing the damage. Like I said, if we're going out on my terms. Dare me? Fuck it. I think the blue guy disappeared right in front of me. That pissed me off. I don't think I have armor. I have 7% armor. I can double my max HP. That gives me more damage. Yeah. I'm not feeling that hubris yet. Let's see. We'll see how this goes. We'll go from there. Hey, look, another trying to suck. Oh, we love sucking in this house. Quantity, shield. Let's just do quantity, I guess. More gold sneakers, honey. More damage. Bounces are good. Damage is better, but this 808, I am fighting literal piles of bosses. Alright, I'll take a pile of evasion. More damage. Target damage. Oh my god. Yeah, the damage upgrades, fuck it. Oh, we're going for it. I'm going full dipshit now. Like, we're full hubris. This is full hubris. Like I said, with how this has been going, if we're going out on my fucking terms. Holy cheese, my fucking beloved. Is that no burger? That's funny. Socks. Kiss me. I'm on. Alright. We're still missing. I don't know where. Bigger bananas. We all love it when the banana's bigger, don't we, girls? Alright, go. Bitch, we got the zoomies. Let's party. Let's party. It's gotta be over here. That's all that's left. More damage on my main weapon? Absolutely. More damage and more bone. I want damage. I really do need damage. Damage is our king here. Oh, shit. There it is. I don't know who needs bingo still. There's, well, actually, it looks like it's only me and Bird right now. So, enjoy? Didn't I get it? I haven't gotten a legendary item, actually. Alright. We love free boxes. You hate what? Delicious border? Stupid. What is my luck? Half my mediocre luck to double my projectile speed. Alright. Sure. Means my bananas go further. Hey, a gold guy. Sorry, that's the first time I've seen one in this whole run. That got me to stop. Gold guy, gold monster down. XP gain, thorns, or project. It's a little late for XP gain, but I'll do it because it's a good amount. We found the crypt. More damage on the lightning staff, more damage on the bone, damage on the dagger. Welcome to the party. What do you got? Double knockback, half luck, no good. Double regen, half evasion, no thank you. Wait, do I actually have all the keys? Oh, there was only 4 this time. Well, shit, fuck it. Let's go crazy. What's our difficulty up? 35. When we get it up to 40, then we have everything we need for the other challenge. A real fool's errand. Doom sauce, please. Double size, half knockback. That's not bad. That's not bad. Those are some big bananas. What's that for a bonanza? Ooh, and we're going in to fight a bunch of bosses, you say? I'm tempted to go into the crypt as is, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if my timer needs to carry me through whatever's in there. I am worried about... I just straight up don't know the rules here. But... you do be getting some stuff. Okay, Calcium's dads. There's more of them every time we turn around. That man, that poly feels intense. Hopefully, I'm not too worried about damage output. All right. That is an amazing thing to get. Oh my god. We might have a chance in hell. Not bad for having no luck right now. 14, actually. You get a lot of money just from moving at this point. My phone is ringing. I will have to call you back in just a bit, Dad. I'm almost done. Forgive me, Father. Oh, blood mark. That was as good as I probably should have taken the poison before I went to gas mask. That would have been really smart. That would have been really smart. Alright, whatever. Speed. I don't know if that's going to help us at this point. Alright. Shield tome, bone. We'll get to you, Father. Can't afford, just got popped. Hold on, I'll get it. I'm almost to my 40% difficulty and I see the thing's going to do it. This is what we're after. This is what I'm after. This is maybe stupid, but I am trying it. More count for everything, I guess. More damage for everything. Done. 40% difficulty. Did it. I'll take the luck. I don't know what good it'll do me at this point. I don't know what's next. We're down to 2 minutes. I should really get moving. Game disagrees, since here's a swarm. Y'all take the jumps. I'm going to see through the swarm, then I'm going to go in the hole. The thing is, you get rewarded for going into overtime in the other one, so I'm like, should I go in overtime on this one on purpose, and then go in the crypt? I think that might be wise. I don't know. I guess I'll try it, and we'll call it a learning experience. I really want to clear it, but at the same time, if it gives extra time, that might be the ticket to clearing it. So... you see my fucking conundrum here. We'll see. Unless it just summons a boss, like a normal boss game. I really have no idea. And that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know. I feel like I should probably go in. Alright, I'm gonna follow my gut on the lack of risk reward on this one. I don't know. Anxious. I wish someone knew. Was in here. Okay, open. Alright, I've also just completely gotten disoriented, so, yay! And the game's busy giving me head. Projectile bounces, yeah. Okay, my timer did carry, so I'm glad I went in because we're not exactly rich. Okay, well, then we've learned, haven't we? That's probably stupid to waste that much time, but hey, look, we got a prize. I don't have time for that chest. I don't have time for anything, really. I don't know what's going on. At least we're faster now. A little bit. And Tony's got his weird acceleration to worry about. But getting in here quickly might be a really good thing. I'm sure there's also guys spawning. Game disagree. Wait, what? Well, I mean... What? Okay. Ow. Oh, he reset them. Oh shit. Okay, so at some point it starts getting dark. Okay. Hide in the light. That protects me. Any damage in the lamp? I don't know. I don't know. There's something about doing the lamp. What? My blood mark went weird. Oh, apparently I got it. That was apparently an infamously terrible achievement to get. Okay. Hi, things are talking to me now. That was like a real boss, but on a first tier. What the hell is the graveyard? I mean, it's different. It's different from anything else in the game, isn't it? Can't argue with that. Oh, I can do these still for some reason. Well, they do damage to the stuff around you. These guys aren't even really getting the spawn, so let's work on that lifesteal achievement. Ooh, doubt it's gonna happen, but you never know. Right? You okay? I feel like I'm experiencing some amount of slowdown, and I don't know why. Crazy? I forget if it's level 9 or level 12. I'm gonna say it's level 12 is the problem. In fact, they're not even getting close to me here, so. Alright. I'll take it. We earned it. I'll take even bigger bananas. I want Donkey Kong the nut when he looks at me. 10. Yeah, there's an exit. I should probably go to the exit. I don't know if I have to win. I beat the guy. I feel like I should start thinking about that because they're getting awful close to me with their ludicrous speed. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, but one more level, I get it. Oh, the hubris is real, guys. No, we gotta go. Never mind. I got it. I got it. I got the thing I wanted. Now if I can just get out of here. Oh. Oh, you motherfuckers! Oh, don't mind me. There's a whole outside world. Oh, we just go back out. We just go back out. Well, okay then. More damage. Boy, I don't know. Oh, we just got it. It gave us a suck for that. Okay. Well, my record is about 3 minutes. How's everyone else doing? There's chests. Okay, I mean, we got that good run. We got that good run. You know? We got that good run. Now, if I could get to a microwave and stay there long enough to do it, I could, oh no, it takes time to cook. That's not gonna happen. I was gonna say I could cheese it and get the, whatchamacallit now, the cheese one or the ice one or something, but hey. Bigger. I just don't think I'd stay here very long. I have to make cheese, and a lot of it, and that's one of them. I'm trying. I don't even know if I'm losing. I'm just trying to get the cheese. There it is. Look at that. If I can do the ice crystal, that's another. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, it burnt out. It's done. But hey, I got one. I got one. That was a pretty good run. That's a pretty good run right there. Hey, I'm cooked. I actually hit cooked. I don't think I've ever hit cooked before. And the poison is health. Oh, that would have killed me. That's Zawario kicking off. So awesome. We're gonna get more shield. Worry about it. Oh, if I get that chest. Oh well. 4 minutes. That's by far any record for me. That's not even hubris. That's just Sarah dies. And that is first area cleared. And bonk. That's just now said bonk. And we unlocked a bunch of new shit. I think one was a weapon. We'll see. Sake of argument, that is 2, 3, 4 bingos. Maybe him skill issue? Alright, for a single tier, 52 is really nice. 23 minutes. Have I earned my cheeseburger? Oh, okay. Blood magic is tied to some. There's a bunch of stuff tied to other stuff that we just did, so. And we've unlocked the scythe, so now it's a new weapon. I'm going to go ahead and give that to people. Weapon unlocked. Oh, hey, that's not one for me like that. Boom. Because it really matters now. Skull egg, moldy gloves. This is apparently a really hard one to get, and I just got it. By dumb luck. I'll take it. Hey, weapon, what do we got? That's expensive. This is Sometimes summons blood magic, 5% chance to increase max HP upon killing enemies. Yo, okay, so that's gonna make getting the other thing way easier, right? Alright. And we've unlocked Skull Egg. Obtain increased difficulty by 7%. Ooh, mean. Okay. Moldy gloves. Create a moldy poison cloud upon hitting an enemy. Oh, and they're moist. What was the one I said I thought I turned off? I wish I could turn that one on. Like, I mean, that's okay sometimes. Can't turn off beer. This can't turn it off. Oh, that sucks. I hate that one. Can't turn it off. Not allowed. And we can get this. Right. Oh, and a new character is here. We can get Vlad. He starts with doing it. There's a bunch of stuff tied to Vlad. So there you go. There's new character unlocked. That's most of my another bingo for me. I have 3 things missing. Dying of hubris, ironically, taking fall damage, and getting the slurp gloves. But hey, look at that. Okay, and then for 44 I can get the scythe, which will also unlock... Oh, it's half of Roberto. That's a great push. That is a lot of stuff. And I can turn the skull off. Like, difficulty isn't innately the issue. The issue is that I'm a dumbass. And for 8 gold, silver, I can buy... Actually, I can buy this. Done. We bought Skip. Alright. That wasn't bad once I got moving. And I am fucking starving, so... It is after 9... It's almost 9:30. Yeah, go to bed. Thank you for joining me on this whimsical, random Megabonk session. Sorry it got to be kind of a downer there in the middle, but I got better. I just needed to pick me up. And look how good it went once I had to pick me up. So sometimes when life kicks you in the nuts 5 or 6 times, it's you know, you should give your nuts a break. That's what we learned today. Give your nuts a break. I'm gonna go cook delicious burger, preferably without moldy cheese, because I don't want to make anyone sick. In real life. In this game, it's my go-to. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you all next time. I hope we all had a lovely bingo session. Liz wasn't here, and she's going to be very sad about the leaderboard state, maybe. I've passed her, and Bird is getting close. Uh-oh. See y'all tomorrow for what we're going to end up having to call Grind and Gab, probably, because we got to do this stupid, stinking... We got to get ready for this boss in Star Ocean. Ugh. Oh, that got noise canceled at some point. That's funny. Okay. Bye.